Hello, welcome to Learn English with Technology podcast series, and this is episode 14. Today we're diving deep into turning your daily commute into a language learning powerhouse. Get this.
Oh,
The average person spends over 300 hours a year in their car.
wow.
That's practically a whole extra semester
Yeah.
of language immersion just waiting to happen.
What's fascinating is so many people see their commute as wasted time.
Right.
But research from the University of California suggests we're actually primed to learn during routine activities like driving. One study even showed that learning while doing a routine task can boost information retention by up to 47%.
Really?
Yeah, it turns out those familiar routes and automatic actions actually put your brain in an ideal state for soaking up new information.
So instead of dreading traffic, we should be thinking, bring on the language lessons. I'm already starting to see my commute in a whole new light. But why is the car such a good spot for this? Aside from just the time factor.
Well, consider the environment. It's a personal, distraction-free space, often with excellent acoustics. And plus, there's something about the physical motion of driving that seems to strengthen neural connections. It's like your brain is building those mental highways while you're on the road.
I love that. I read about Sarah, a community member, who used her commute to prep for a big presentation.
Okay.
Not only did she nail it, but she landed a promotion and doubled her salary.
Wow.
Talk about a return on investment for those car hours.
That's a perfect example of how this approach goes beyond just vocabulary and grammar. It's about building confidence and fluency in real-world situations. The car becomes this unique learning environment, almost like a context-dependent classroom. Your brain starts associating that space with learning. So just stepping into your car can trigger that language acquisition mindset.
It's like a mental Pavlovian response. But let's get down to the actual content. What exactly are we listening to in this mobile language lab?
Well, that's where the idea of crafting the perfect audio mix comes in.
Yeah.
Think of it like putting together a playlist for a road trip. You wouldn't listen to the same song over and over, right?
Right.
Language learning needs that same kind of variety to keep things engaging and effective.
So it's not just about language learning podcasts.
No, absolutely not. We need to expand our audio horizons a bit.
Like that.
Michael, a busy executive who mastered business English during his commute, uses what he calls the content triangle. He balances his listening between podcasts, audiobooks, and music, each offering different benefits and stimulating the brain in unique ways.
I like the sound of this content triangle. Let's break it down, starting with podcasts.
Yeah.
What are some good non-language learning options?
It depends on your interests and the type of English you want to learn. You love true crime. Listening to true crime podcasts in English will help you understand complex narratives and legal vocabulary. Enjoy cooking. Cooking shows are full of practical vocabulary and everyday expressions. Aspiring entrepreneur. There are tons of business podcasts that immerse you in the language of finance and marketing.
I actually know someone who landed her dream job after listening to an economics podcast during her commute.
Wow.
She could discuss global markets so confidently, it really impressed the interviewer. She literally turned her car into a career accelerator.
That's incredible. It's amazing how those seemingly passive listening hours can pay off in such a big way.
Yeah.
Now, audiobooks are fantastic for absorbing natural speech patterns and intonation, but don't jump into complex novels right away. Start with something accessible and fun, like children's audiobooks.
Like the Harry Potter series.
Exactly. Harry Potter is a global phenomenon, and the audiobooks are fantastically narrated. They're perfect for learning storytelling vocabulary and building listening comprehension. As you become more comfortable, you can level up to more challenging books, like biographies or memoirs, which are full of sophisticated vocabulary and conversational English.
A friend of mine went from struggling with small talk to becoming a captivating storyteller, thanks to audiobooks in his car.
That's awesome.
It's amazing how a small change in your routine can have such a big impact.
Absolutely.
But what about music? Is that just for fun, or can we actually learn from it?
Music is an incredibly powerful tool for language learning. Your brain processes lyrics differently than spoken words, and the melodic patterns help you remember vocabulary much longer. It's like embedding new words in your memory with a catchy tune.
So are we just blasting our favorite English songs and hoping for the best?
Not quite. Different genres serve different learning purposes. Pop music is great for everyday expressions and slang. Rap can help you improve your rhythm and pronunciation speed. And surprisingly, country music is fantastic for storytelling and descriptive language. The key is finding the right music. for your learning goals and personality.
We're basically building a personalized language learning soundtrack for our commute.
I love that.
This is way more fun than I expected. But I'm curious about organizing all this content and making sure we're using our time effectively.
That's where the 60-30-10 rule comes in.
Yeah.
A system used by some of the most successful language learners I know. It's all about time management magic.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention with time management magic. Tell me more about this 60-30-10 rule. And are there any apps or tools that can help us organize all this amazing audio content?
For that, we'll need to shift gears into the next part of our deep dive. Get ready to unlock the secrets of time management for language learning on the go. So the 60-30-10 rule, it taps into your brain's natural learning rhythms throughout the day.
Okay.
It's about strategically aligning your audio content with those peak performance windows.
You mean our brains aren't just randomly ready to learn at any given moment?
Right. There's actually a science to optimizing our learning based on the time of day. Absolutely. Think of it like prime time for your brain. Research even suggests that language learning efficiency can fluctuate by up to 40% depending on the time of day.
Okay, I'm hooked. Break down this 60-30-10 rule for me.
So 60% of your car learning should be active learning during your peak mental hours. For most people, that's the morning commute.
Okay.
You're fresh, you're alert, and ready for challenging material, like intense podcasts, advanced audiobooks, or even grammar exercises.
That makes sense. I'm definitely a morning person when it comes to learning new things. So what about the other 40%?
So then 30% is dedicated to hybrid learning during those medium energy periods, like your lunch break drive or early afternoon commute. It's a balance of learning and entertainment.
Something like intermediate podcasts.
Yeah.
Storytelling audiobooks.
Yeah.
Or even those catchy English songs we talked about.
Exactly. Keep your brain engaged, but not overwhelmed.
Okay.
We actually had a community member, James, who was a delivery driver. He used this hybrid learning time to master the art of casual conversation. He'd listen to podcasts and practice shadowing the speakers, and now he chats with customers from all over the world.
That's fantastic. It's amazing how we can customize this to fit our own goals.
Okay.
Okay, what about that final 10%, the evening commute, when our brains are fried?
Don't underestimate the evening commute. This is when the magic of wind-down learning happens. Your brain is more relaxed, but still processing the day's information. It's the perfect time for lighter content, like familiar audiobooks, English music, or reviewing vocabulary.
It's like letting our brains marinate in everything we've learned throughout the day.
Yeah.
I love this approach. But what about unexpected moments?
Yeah.
Traffic jams, detours, or just a day when the schedule goes out the window?
That's where understanding your brain's different learning modes while driving comes in.
Okay.
And there's this brilliant strategy called the flexible 5. That can help you make the most of those situations.
Right.
But it's not just about time management. It's also about tapping into your brain's natural ways of processing information on the go.
Now you've got me really curious. Learning modes.
Yeah.
Flexible 5. Tell me more about how to turn those unpredictable driving moments into learning opportunities.
You might be surprised to learn that your brain actually has 3 distinct ways of processing language while driving. And most people only use one. And it's like driving a high-performance car in first gear.
Okay, that analogy definitely got my attention. Tell me about these 3 learning modes.
The first mode is cruise control learning. It's your passive absorption mode, perfect for heavy traffic or complex driving. When you need to focus on the road, your brain is incredibly good at processing information in the background, so simply playing audio content, even if you're not actively listening to every word, allows your brain to pick up patterns and absorb information passively.
So even if I'm not hanging on every word, my brain is still learning in the background.
Exactly. It's like downloading language data
Yeah.
while navigating traffic.
Wow.
We had one community member, Rachel, who was amazed at how much she learned just by having English audiobooks playing in the background during her daily commute.
That's fascinating. Sounds like cruise control learning is all about maximizing those times when we need to prioritize driving safety. But what about those times when I'm on familiar routes? Traffic is light and my mind is ready for a bit more engagement.
That's when you shift into active navigation mode.
Okay.
This is when you're driving on autopilot and your brain has more bandwidth for active learning. You can use this time for more interactive activities. like pronunciation practice, or shadowing the speakers in a podcast.
So I could use those times to really focus on my pronunciation.
Ah.
Or try to mimic the way native speakers talk.
Precisely. You can even incorporate what we call location-based learning. Associate specific learning activities with certain landmarks or points along your route.
Okay.
You pass a coffee shop. Time to practice coffee-related vocabulary.
Right, I love that. It's like turning my entire commute into a language learning game. But you mentioned a third mode, turbo learning.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Turbo learning is for those golden moments when you're parked, waiting for someone, or stuck in standstill traffic. Those moments are perfect for short bursts of intensive practice. This is where the flexible 5 method comes in.
Okay, you've been talking about the flexible 5 method for a while now. Tell me more. What is it?
The flexible 5 is a 5-minute routine packed with micro exercises that are designed to maximize those unexpected pockets of time. Think of it as your language learning Swiss Army knife. You can do pronunciation drills, vocabulary challenges, mini role plays, grammar quizzes, anything that you can squeeze into. 1-minute bursts.
5 minutes. That's brilliant. Even on my busiest days, I can find 5 minutes here and there. I'm already starting to think about how I can incorporate these learning modes and the flexible 5 into my own commute. But what about those days when everything goes wrong? Heavy traffic, bad weather, or just feeling completely drained? Is there a way to stay on track even when our routine gets thrown off?
Absolutely. That's where the mode shifting protocol comes in. It's like having a mental gearbox for your language learning. And there's this incredibly effective technique called the red light revolution that can turn those frustrating traffic stops into mini language labs.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this mode shifting protocol and the red light revolution, and how can I use these techniques to make sure I'm always making progress, even when life throws me a curveball?
So think of the mode shifting protocol as a way to adapt your learning to the situation at hand.
Okay.
If you're feeling mentally drained or the traffic is demanding extra focus, you can downshift into cruise control learning, focusing on passive absorption. If you hit a stretch of open road and your mind is feeling sharp, shift up to active navigation and engage in more interactive practice. And when those golden moments of park time appear, it's time to hit the turbo learning button and maximize those minutes with the flexible 5.
I love how adaptable this system is. It takes the pressure off having to stick to a rigid schedule and allows me to flow with the natural rhythms of my day and my driving environment. But you mentioned the red light revolution.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Think of those red lights as mini language labs. Most people just zone out or check their phones, but we've discovered that the average red light provides enough time for some seriously effective pronunciation practice. We call it the microphone method. You choose one challenging English sound and focus on perfecting it during that brief stop.
That's brilliant. Instead of getting frustrated by red lights, I can turn them into pronunciation power-ups. I can already see myself practicing my sounds at every intersection.
Exactly. It's all about changing your perspective and seeing those little moments as opportunities. But are you ready to take it up a notch?
Absolutely. Bring on those advanced language learning hacks.
So we were talking about using technology to boost your learning even more.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about how to really take it to the next level.
One of the most exciting things coming up is something called smart route learning.
Smart route learning. What is that?
Imagine this. Your car's GPS knows your route.
Yeah.
It knows the traffic. It even knows how alert you are feeling. And it uses all that information to pick the perfect language content for that exact moment. It's like having a personal AI language tutor built right into your dashboard.
That sounds pretty futuristic. Is that even possible yet?
It's getting closer. But even now, there are some apps that let you create these smart playlists that adjust based on your driving conditions.
Okay.
So let's say you hit a traffic jam.
Yeah.
Your app can switch to something calming, like a familiar audiobook. Or if you're on the open highway, it might switch to a more challenging podcast or a grammar lesson.
That's amazing. But you know what I was thinking about?
What's that?
Voice commands.
Oh, yeah.
You know, most cars have them now. Could those be used for language practice?
Absolutely. We call it the Echo Enhance method.
Okay, tell me more.
Use your car's voice recognition system to practice your pronunciation.
Oh, interesting.
You could ask it to define a word, repeat a phrase, or even give you feedback on your intonation.
Oh, it's like having a pronunciation coach right there with me.
Exactly.
And I was also thinking, you know, A lot of cars have display screens.
Yeah,
Can we use those too?
definitely. We call that the visual anchor system. You can have flashcards pop up, vocabulary lists, grammar tips, even motivational quotes. If you don't have a fancy display, a simple smartphone mount works great too.
My car is becoming a language learning command center.
I love it.
This is so much more engaging
Yeah.
than just passively listening to something.
Right?
But with all of this going on, how do we make sure we stay focused on driving safely?
That's a crucial point, which is why we have something called the Safety First Learning Protocol.
Okay, what does that involve? How do I make sure that learning doesn't become a distraction?
Think about the natural pauses that already happen in your drive.
Oh,
Red lights, stop signs, waiting in parking lots.
yeah.
These are all opportunities to engage in more focused activities without compromising your safety.
That makes sense.
And always use voice commands whenever possible. That keeps your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road.
So active learning during those breaks.
Yeah.
And then back to more passive listening while you're actually driving.
Exactly. It's finding that rhythm between learning and driving where they actually work together and support each other.
I like that.
And be mindful of your energy level and the driving conditions. If you're tired or the weather's bad, always prioritize safety and adjust your learning accordingly.
So you're saying sometimes the weather can actually affect how we learn.
We found that it can. It's something we call weather-based learning strategies.
Wow, weather can help us learn. How does that work?
Think about sunny days.
Yeah.
They often make people feel optimistic and energetic. That's perfect for practicing pronunciation or having those upbeat conversational practices.
Makes sense.
But then rainy days tend to create a sense of calm and focus, ideal for tackling tougher grammar or memorizing new words.
So we kind of work with the weather,
Yeah,
not against it.
exactly.
I like that. But what about those times when the weather is really bad, like snowstorms or really heavy fog?
Yeah, those can be challenging. They demand a lot of focus. But actually, that heightened awareness can benefit learning.
Interesting.
It's like your brain is on high alert.
Yeah.
Ready to process information more deeply. And if you're stuck waiting out a storm, that's what we call storm session strategies. Special exercises designed for that unexpected downtime.
So even bad weather can be good for language learning.
That's right.
This is amazing. I'm seeing every drive now as a chance to learn. But we've been talking mostly about solo learning. Is there a way to bring a social element into car-based learning?
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a solitary thing.
Sure.
Carpooling with friends or family is a great way to practice conversation, play language games, and even just learn from each other.
It's like a language club on wheels.
Exactly.
And even if I'm driving alone, I can use technology to connect with people. Maybe a video chat with a language partner while I'm on the highway, or an online language exchange while I'm waiting in a parking lot. It's like bringing that language community right into my car.
I love that.
Now, with all of these ideas, I really want to make sure that I can use these skills in the real world.
Well, in today's world, strong English skills are a huge advantage in pretty much any job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And imagine practicing your business English, your presentation skills, or even your industry-specific vocabulary.
Yeah.
All during your commute.
It's like my car is a mobile university for professional development.
I love it.
But, you know, with all this talk about fluency and vocabulary, we can't forget about one of the most important elements.
What's that?
Pronunciation.
You're absolutely right. And actually, your car can be a fantastic place to really work on your accent.
Really?
And perfect those tricky English sounds.
How so?
The enclosed space.
Yeah.
Combined with that natural rhythm of driving,
Right.
creates this amazing setting for pronunciation practice.
I can just picture myself practicing the sounds or rolling my R's as I cruise down the highway.
It's like having a private pronunciation studio on wheels. And we have some fun techniques to help with that too, like the traffic light transformation, where you focus on one specific sound at each red light.
So clever. I can already feel myself becoming a more confident English speaker just by using these strategies on my daily drives.
That's what we like to hear.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive. I never realized how much learning potential was hidden in my daily commute.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about unlocking these opportunities for language learning and personal growth.
It is.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, if you're ready to transform your commute into a language learning adventure, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this episode, Share it with your friends, and tell us about your own car-based language learning experiences in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep those language engines running and keep driving towards fluency.
Happy learning.